The opening minute of this video needs to hit viewers like a forgotten Cold War file being slid across a metal desk. So you start by addressing the quiet truth that every historian, bunker builder and off-grid tinkerer eventually stumbles into. Moisture is the enemy that wins more battles than time, pests or structural flaws. Long after soldiers abandon a trench, long after engineers walk away from a bunker, moisture remains behind, patiently breaking down wood, rotting fibres, rusting metal, and compromising everything humans try to preserve. Even modern homeowners fight the same silent war. Basements sweating after a humid week, sheds sagging after a rainy season, and crawl spaces turning into mould factories because builders cut a corner or two. That sets the stage for the big reveal. One of the simplest and cheapest tools used historically to interrupt the movement of moisture is something most people overlook entirely. Not plastic, not tar, not fancy membranes. Something older, tougher, and in many cases more reliable. Building paper. It's the same unassuming, tar-infused sheet that generations of tradesmen trusted long before house wrap existed. Why building paper became an unsung hero in early construction history. You see, long before synthetic barriers existed, builders depended on asphalt-impregnated paper as a flexible shield against wind-driven rain, ground moisture, and even capillary creep. When you study preserved structures from the early 1900s, including barns, workers' quarters, and military field structures, you'll see layers of building paper tucked behind clapboards or lining the interior of wooden frames. Its purpose wasn't to create a perfect seal. Instead, it served as a controlled choke point, resisting moisture transmission while still allowing trapped vapour to escape slowly through the fibres. This balance is why building paper often outlasted early plastics, which became brittle or trapped too much humidity behind them. That historical reliability makes it especially valuable today for people restoring old structures, building off-grid cabins, constructing underground storage rooms, or protecting wooden components in humid climates. Even today, it is still sold quite cheaply, still works exactly as intended, and, honestly, still holds advantages that many modern membranes simply don't. So, let's take a closer look at what building paper actually does when it comes to moisture defense. The real reason building paper matters is because moisture, well, it moves in more ways than most people realize. You see, it wicks through porous materials, it condenses on cool surfaces, and it pushes through tiny gaps with air movement. Building paper disrupts these paths, without, creating new problems along the way. When you press it between sheathing and siding, or between wooden joists and soil contact panels, it prevents direct moisture absorption while allowing the material to breathe slowly enough to avoid, those pesky mould blooms. Its secret is the asphalt impregnation, which blocks liquid water but doesn't completely suffocate the material. That makes it ideal for structures where airflow is present but not constant, such as crawl space ceilings, shed interiors, root cellar walls, and underground bunker ceilings, where condensation tends to drip from cooler surfaces. You're not creating a waterproof shell. You're creating a moisture buffer zone, exactly what ancient builders understood intuitively. How modern homesteaders and survivalists can put building paper to work immediately. One of the most effective modern uses is in a low-cost off-grid cabin, where wood is exposed to wide temperature swings. If you line the interior side of exterior walls with building paper before adding panelling, you dramatically reduce the moisture that passes from humid indoor air into the insulation cavity. That slows mold growth and keeps the structure stable through seasonal changes. Another practical application is in underground storage spaces. Many people attempt to waterproof these areas with plastic sheeting, only to discover that moisture collects behind the plastic and begins rotting the structure. Using building paper as the first layer gives the structure enough breathability to release vapor while still blocking liquid seepage. You can then add a second barrier or protective layer without creating a condensation trap. A third example is barn or shed repair. If you have aging siding that allows wind-driven moisture through, stapling a layer of building paper behind it before reinstalling the boards adds decades of life to the structure. The same method was used historically to strengthen field barracks during wartime, particularly in damp regions where wet timber meant early collapse. Even small-scale gardening setups benefit from it. If you are building wooden worm bins, cold frames or compost bays, lining the outer walls with building paper reduces rot dramatically while still allowing the system to breathe. This is exactly the kind of low-tech, high-value solution that makes life easier without costing much. Why building paper is still relevant despite modern high-tech materials. Many new products promise perfect moisture control, but, well, perfection tends to come with trade-offs. Completely waterproof membranes trap condensation. Breathable synthetics degrade under ultraviolet light. Plastic barriers tear under stress. Building paper remains a flexible middle ground that works in climates with fluctuating humidity. It's cheap enough to use in bulk, forgiving enough to apply without special tools, and rugged enough to do its job quietly for decades. Anyone building or restoring structures in humid, foggy or underground environments benefits from using it as a first-line defense. This is exactly why it belongs in the toolkit of modern homesteaders, bunker restorers, historians studying traditional building techniques, and anyone working with wood in damp environments. If you found this breakdown valuable and want to keep exploring the forgotten techniques that kept early structures standing, make sure to subscribe to Hydrohaven. Share this video with anyone building, restoring, or protecting a structure on a tight budget. There's more practical history coming, and you won't want to miss the next deep dive.